special election edition of Focal Point. Will it be historic?
I think it's important to get the people that we need to change the world in office.
Will voter turnout numbers be the most in a half century?
We've had a huge turnout here. It's way more than we ever expected.
Tonight we have up-to-the-minute extensive coverage of all the candidates and proposals and how those candidates spent the last few days getting out the vote.
Coming up on Focal Point, find out about the Get Out the Vote rally with Joe Biden.
I'm going to tell you how MSU students have been hitting local neighborhoods to encourage people to go out and vote.
It's election day, and that means millions of Americans are traveling to the polls to exercise their voice. We'll show you exactly what they're doing to earn this badge of honor. Americans already started the day with over 30 million early votes, and this morning at 7 a.m., the polls open in Michigan. And both candidates for governor started their day in their hometowns. Democrat Gretchen Whitmer voted at the St. Paul Lutheran Church in East Lansing, and Republican Bill Schuette voted in Midland at the Calvary Baptist Church.
We worked really hard and proud of the campaign that we ran, and election day is here, and I hope the voters get out and vote and give me the opportunity to lead.
We got 4% unemployment today. It was 15% unemployment 8 years ago. And the real question for Michigan is, are we going forward or going backward? We're going forward.
This is Focal Point.
Welcome to this special election edition of Focal Point. I'm Andrew Burkle.
And I'm Kendall Ashman. The polls have been open since 7 a.m. this morning and closed a little bit over an hour ago. We just got off the phones with precincts here in Lansing, at least the ones who will answer. They're very busy, obviously, right now. Nationally, however, the early voting is showing what could be the largest voter turnout in decades. People all across East Lansing exercised their constitutional right to vote today. Voters poured into their precincts to cast their ballots. Lines weren't too long, but it was a good turnout for a midterm election. The voters at St. Paul Lutheran Church acknowledged the importance of showing up to the polls.
I think every year is important, but by far, if this is some of the students and other individuals' first time voting?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that the climate has really shifted recently, and I think it is more important than ever that everyone is being represented and how they feel.
We only have one. Everybody only has one vote, so everybody's vote matters.
Bill Schuette has crisscrossed the state of Michigan from Traverse City to Detroit, and now he's in the capital. In his last appearance before the election, Schuette stopped by the Republican headquarters in Lansing as a thank you. Schuette says if elected, he plans to continue the work he started as Michigan's Attorney General.
In January, what we'll do is we're going to keep our promises. We're going to make sure that we eliminate the Granholm-Whitmer income tax increase and start the process of cutting auto insurance rates. That we're going to do just what I said we were going to do.
The Republican Watch Party begins at the Lansing Center as soon as the polls close tonight.
Whitmer campaigned in all 83 counties, celebrating her final stop in Lansing last night. Lansing's Not House hosted Whitmer's campaign party on election eve with some rock and roll. The band Star Forum performed during the Get Out and Vote party during the primaries, introducing Whitmer onto the stage with Journey's hit song Don't Stop Believing. Just a small town girl from East Lansing, Michigan, Whitmer casted her ballot early this morning in the 7th precinct.
Who the governor is impacts your life from the minute you wake up and turn on the tap to brush your teeth, to the roads you drive, to the schools our kids attend, and so this is a really important election.
Like frosting on a cake, Whitmer celebrated another special moment last night. After her final speech of the long campaign, Whitmer led the singing of Happy Birthday to her now 15-year-old daughter, Sydney.
In Lansing, not having a ride to the polls is no longer an excuse to skip voting in the midterm election. 14% of Americans say they didn't vote in the last election because it was difficult for them to get to the polls. This year, CATA has joined companies like Uber and Lyft, giving its customers free rides today. Lansing residents wanting to vote must present a valid voter registration card when boarding the bus in order to be eligible for a free ride.
But free rides, taking people to the polls, that's amazing because, you know, we really need to get out here and vote so things don't happen like the past, you know.
With the 2018 midterm elections here, MSU students worked overtime this past weekend to remind people to get out and vote today. Focal Point Samantha Bassrico joins us now with more.
The MSU College Republicans worked the phones and went door knocking this weekend to encourage people to get out and vote.
With the 2018 midterm elections upon us,
basically this is just the last push for Republican dominance in the state.
The race isn't slowing down.
Especially this one, we have a Senate candidate up for election. All the state reps, all the state senators are up for election, and governor, and a lot of other positions. So we think it's really important to make sure people are going out and voting.
Since midterm elections usually have a lower voter turnout.
I think personally that people just aren't as incentivized. They just don't feel like it's as important as a presidential race. And we just want to kill that stigma that midterms don't matter.
The MSU College Republicans dedicating their time before the elections to phone bank.
We call voters we have on a list, and we remind them to go out and vote either before Election Day with their early ballot or on Election Day.
Between John James and Dennis Stabenow, which of those two do you prefer?
While most volunteers have been using these to encourage people to go out and vote, they've also been hitting local neighborhoods.
We are door knocking, basically going house to house, just getting people to vote. Mainly vote Republican if we can, but just to vote and exercise their rights.
A last-minute effort to get people to vote for the midterm elections.
Just kind of goes back to the little adage, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. This is your one of your chances to get out and have your voice heard.
MSU College of Democrats have also been canvassing for their candidates, going as far as West Virginia. They also stress the importance of college students voting in the midterm elections.
I think college students, especially in East Lansing, we make up a large portion, I think a majority of the East Lansing population, yet we don't vote as that majority. So a lot of the governing laws, even locally, aren't directed towards college students, even though if we all voted, we could have that voice and choose what we wanted for our city.
Mesa encourages everyone to contribute to our democracy and vote every election.
Thanks, Samantha. So what were the strategies behind the Republican and Democratic campaigns for governor? Focal Point Shelby Sacco spent time with both campaigns to find out how each group ticks.
The wait is almost over. After one of the most highly anticipated midterm elections, we will soon find out who Michigan's next governor will be. The race is on and rapidly approaching.
Democrats want to win in order to be their voice. And so moving forward, we think Republican leadership's the best way for our state to go.
Democrat Gretchen Whitmer will face Republican Bill Schuette.
Bill Schuette's shown that he's a leader that can get things done.
She's a problem solver, and she's speaking to the issues that matter.
Some are calling this the most important midterm election in decades. On November 6th, voters will decide if Gretchen Whitmer or Bill Schuette will become Michigan's next governor.
She's got a plan to fix our roads. She's got a plan to protect pre-existing conditions. She's got a plan for clean water. These are the issues that people care about.
You look at what Republicans have done the last 8 years here in Michigan. We've frozen tuition to keep college affordable. We believe that with certain reforms, we can keep college affordable for young people.
Will the Democrats flip the House?
They're out on the doors every single day. They're making calls every single day. They're having meetings and getting all the folks there locally involved, because that's the most important thing.
Or will the Republicans continue to hold the majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate?
Now we're knocking doors and making phone calls. We've done over 2.5 million voter contacts this cycle, which we're on pace to set a record. We're very excited about our operations on the ground.
Who will become the voice of Michigan? Whitmer?
My plan to fix the problem in Flint starts with expediting the replacement of the pipes.
Or Schuette?
And I'm going to make sure that there's accountability and justice for families in Flint.
Both of these candidates are pulling for your votes today in order to become your next governor. From the Spartan Newsroom, I'm Shelby Sacco. Focal Point News.
It was only 2 weeks ago that the two candidates for governor met face-to-face for the final time. The debate covered national issues like immigration to health care, to issues more closer to home like roads and water. Although they differed in views on how they should be solved, their missions were the same: to make Michigan a better place.
Is that as a mom, as a Michigander, as an American, I was outraged and heartbroken when I saw the Trump administration rip children away from their parents. That is not who we are. Those are not Michigan values. As governor, I will stand up to an administration that does that.
She wants to disband ICE. Her Lieutenant Governor choice, Garland Gilchrist, wants to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security. And those are extreme positions. They're reckless. And
there were three major statewide proposals on the ballot. The first one, if passed, will legalize recreational marijuana in Michigan. Sometimes called a gateway drug, marijuana is legal for medical use in 27 states and recreationally in 7 states. Focal Point's Tatiana Hempel has a story on what it could mean if it passes.
California made marijuana legal first, but now voters will get the choice to make the change in Michigan.
For people who are 21 and older, with limited amounts.
A long-time battle for the coalition to get Proposal 1 on the ballot for the November 6th election.
In Michigan, when you want to try to get some type of a legislative initiative on the ballot, you need to file a petition with the Secretary of State. And that petition has to have a certain number of signatures in order for it to be eligible to go on the ballot.
The initiative was approved by the state in May of 2017, and between May and November of last year, the campaign collected 360,000 signatures. Now, that exceeded the amount that they needed of 252,523 signatures.
Go to things like roads, schools. It goes for research.
The freedom to have up to 2.5 ounces on your possession and up to 10 ounces stored in a locked container at home.
Officially making Proposal 1 the recreational use of marijuana on the ballot for November 6th.
We arrest 20,000 people in Michigan every single year, the vast majority of which are for possession charges of an ounce or less.
But some believe that it will lead to addiction increases in the youth.
The young man who I was a legal guardian for, who died at the age of 19 6 years ago, as sort of an indirect result of heroin addiction. His addiction started with an addiction to marijuana.
Healthy and Productive Michigan is the organization against Proposal 1. They fear that if the ballot initiative passes, addiction will increase in the local communities.
Form that may be attractive to kids, like gummy bears and lollipops and things like that. I'm worried about that.
In Lansing, I'm Tatiana Hemphill, Focal Point News.
If passed here, Michigan will have the lowest tax rate on marijuana in the country at 16%. Michigan could stand to make $287 million by 2023 if marijuana becomes legal.
Michigan is one of the most gerrymandered states in the country, allowing politicians to draw their own districts, separating Democratic and Republican majority areas. It started with a Facebook post by an ambitious woman who created the group called Voters Not Politicians. The grassroots movement grew to 5,000 volunteers, pushing Michiganders to vote yes on their ballot today.
This is basically her second career.
It's a little bit easier each time. Hi. Hi. Come on in.
A job that requires overtime and, of course, some chocolate.
Yeah, there are always treats. There are always treats.
Each week, Abby Schwartz trains her army of canvassers on gerrymandering. Margaret Tessero is just one of them.
Gerrymandering is not a flashy subject, and so people don't necessarily know what it is or know how to change it.
Margaret knocks on about 50 homes a day, encouraging Michiganders to vote yes on Proposal 2.
Okay, yeah, here we go. It'll be fun. It'll be good.
Michigan is a heavily gerrymandered state, which gives all the power to politicians to draw up their own districts.
So they basically draw funky-shaped districts, and they're picking their voters. They're essentially saying, you know, if we get all of these voters in this area right here, just so, this is going to be safely a district that we can win.
It's simply a tactic that allows politicians to separate Democrats from Republicans throughout the state.
It used to be, we want fair representation to the government. Now it's, we want to make sure our people can get reelected.
For example, Lansing is separated by 3 Democratic districts. So if you decide to vote Republican in your district, you know your vote is at odds.
So it discourages people from voting because they think their vote doesn't count, and they're right.
And for Margaret, it's a pretty clear sign that it's time for change.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks, yeah, thanks.
Have a good day.
Yeah. All right, that was good. That was productive. Even though,
is that our first person that we... And former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger rallied for Proposal 2 in East Lansing a few weeks ago. In 2008 and 2010, California voted in favor of a similar proposal, which Schwarzenegger heavily campaigned for. He said the fight to terminate gerrymandering was tougher than anything he's done on screen.
Michigan's law says you need a reason to vote absentee, and you can no longer vote straight ticket, but Proposal 3 could change that, making it easier to do both. Gloria Nzeka joins us now with more on how this could change elections policies here in Michigan. Gloria?
Yes, Andrew. If the proposal passes, you will be able to vote absentee for any reason, making it easier for many to cast their ballot. Take a close look at your ballot this year. You will notice that the straight ticket voting option is gone.
We've had it since 1891.
For the first time in over 100 years, Michigan citizens will vote differently.
It forces people to vote based on the candidate, not this old antiquated way of voting based on, the party bosses.
But a new initiative on the November ballot might reinstate this century-old practice.
Proposal 3 assures voting rights for Michigan citizens more than what they have right now.
Among other things, this initiative includes automatic voter registration, same-day registration, and access to absentee ballot for any reason.
So that when you do business with the Secretary of State's office, the default is that you are registering to vote unless you decline.
Leah Bomarito, a freshman who will be voting for the first time this year,
I've always wanted to vote,
says more people should be able to vote.
People can be disenfranchised by the loopholes in our current law system. So I think that this proposal would make it easier for everybody.
Some say allowing people to register to vote on election day could facilitate fraud.
Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, those are all contested states. And we could have instances where people move across state lines and vote multiple times.
Now more than ever is the time to vote, especially with such political divide in our nation right now.
Proposal 3, also known as Promote the Vote, is endorsed by the League of Women Voters, NAACP, ACLU, and a number of other organizations.
Thanks, Gloria. A president and 2 vice presidents all rallying for their candidates here in Michigan.
We'll have those stories up next on Focal Point.
Welcome back. Both parties have been working around the clock to capture as many votes as possible, bringing in big name surrogates to help them campaign. Democrats brought their biggest star to Michigan, with former President Barack Obama making a stop in Detroit. And Focal Point's Deja Green takes us there.
This time of year, it's usually this arena that's life. But today, a huge crowd packed into a high school just down the road.
We're really excited. So glad he came for this.
In the cold and in the rain, people waited.
It's the first time that I'm able to get out and see him.
To be a part of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I just love him. I think he's fine. It's wine.
I love you back.
The star of this show, President Barack Obama, who landed in Michigan to support its Democratic candidates.
We're not going to fix everything because of one election, but here's what will happen. If you vote, things will get better.
Don't boo, vote. That was a message from former President Barack Obama that he gave here at Cass Tech while he endorsed this election's Democratic candidates.
Are you ready?
Candidates like Gretchen Whitmer, the Democratic gubernatorial nominee, and U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow.
Thanks, Obama.
Your next governor, Gretchen Whitmer.
I don't think Whitmer needs him to get elected, but I think it'll help.
The consequences of sitting on the sidelines in this election are dangerous and profound.
I feel amazing. This was an important rally. We got to hear about our values, why it's important to get out to vote, and we got to make sure we turn out.
That's exactly why President Obama held this rally, to help Democrats in a midterm election that in their eyes couldn't be more important. In the Motor City, Deja Green, Focal Point News.
Other Obama stops included California, Ohio, and Illinois.
And Obama's Vice President, Joe Biden, made a stop at a rally right here in Lansing. Focal Point's Tatiana Hempel brings us reactions from that event.
It was better late than never.
It's been
It's been a rough 18 months.
A Democratic rally got started an hour and a half late, but the headline was worth the wait.
Folks, we've got to turn this around.
I'm here at Lansing Community College where 1,400 people came out to rally and hear from Gretchen Whitmer, Alyssa Slotkin, and Joe Biden.
A series of explosive devices were sent to a bunch of us and to the media.
But that hasn't stopped politicians from trying to get people to vote.
I am running because it is time for a new generation of leaders who think bigger and work harder and never forget that they are public servants.
I am here not just for me and for Garland and for the executive office. I am here for everyone on this ticket.
I'm really hoping that a lot of students are going to be willing to come out on Election Day and use their voices.
Joe Biden's Get Out the Vote rally educated students and local residents of ways to encourage everyone to vote and learn about each candidate on the ballot.
I wanted to come and see Joe and just to be part of the excitement of the midterms. I think it's really important for everybody to get out this year.
USA Today's studies show that less than a third of millennials will vote in this year's 2018 midterm elections.
How many of you are millennials? All right.
Gretchen Whitmer says this election is critical for the country because it will impact everyone over the next couple of decades. She says she believes the younger generation is the future and will be the change.
All the pride marches, the women's marches, the healthcare rallies, the immigration protests, none of it matters if we don't turn it out on Tuesday. Are you ready?
The application closed 3 days before Election Day. To see if you're still eligible to vote, contact your local clerk's office. In Lansing, I'm Tatiana Hemphill, Focal Point News.
And the other vice president to visit Michigan stopped in Grand Rapids. Mike Pence campaigned for John James and Attorney General Bill Schuette. Christine Canavera is standing by with more on this rally.
That's right, Kendall. Vice President Mike Pence came to the Great Lakes state last week to get people out to vote and to continue the Republican majority. About 1,500 people crowded the Deltaplex Arena in Grand Rapids Monday to rally together before Election Day. From chants of USA
James Train
to James Train, Republican candidates John James and Attorney General Bill Schuette electrified the crowd before the main attraction.
It is my honor and my privilege to introduce the Vice President of the United States of America, Vice President Mike Pence.
Walking out to what seemed like a rock concert.
Well, hello, Michigan!
Vice President Mike Pence came to the Great Lakes state to get people out to vote and also to send a message.
As the President and I have made clear, what happened in Pittsburgh on Saturday was not just criminal, it was evil. And we will never allow violence or anti-Semitism to take hold in the United States of America.
After his message of unity, Vice President Pence came back to his purpose, to encourage the Republican vote.
On the top of the ticket, Michigan needs John James in the Senate and Bill Schuette in the governor's office.
I'm Christine Canerva, Focal Point News. John James is running for the U.S. Senate against incumbent Debbie Stabenow. Before today, Stabenow was up by 10 points against John James, and Gretchen Whitmer is up by 14 points against Bill Schuette.
Thanks, Christine. Well, how do you get all Michiganders together in one place to talk about politics? Well, start with a football game.
See how one candidate used the Spartan and Wolverine game to talk shop. That story and more straight ahead as a special edition of Focal Point continues.
Students are crucial to WKAR's success. It's a great opportunity for the students to learn, and it's a great chance for us to teach students so that they're ready to go out into the real world. Students are the heartbeat of WKAR.
Backstage Pass has given me hands-on experience working with a team and working with the equipment.
Going to class, you learn all this stuff, but then being able to apply it while you're a student as well is really fantastic.
It's been awesome seeing a project go from just emails to a full production day where we have bands coming in. It's been awesome to see that bigger picture come to life.
I'm always excited when I get to work on live productions, especially Backstage Pass.
Having this knowledge at my disposal while I'm in college is really beneficial to what I want to do after I graduate.
It's extremely important to have students because it helps with the success of WKR and public broadcast as a whole. The opportunities are endless for students here.
Welcome back to this special election edition of Focal Point.
From a candidate talking with a big crowd to a candidate talking to a small crowd to how it all might affect voter turnout on campus and beyond. Kayla Hitton joins us with all those stories and more.
Thanks, Kendall. Thanks, Andrew. Even college game day didn't stop this candidate from campaigning. Republican Senate candidate John James took his campaign to Michigan State tailgate 2 weeks ago. He says coming to East Lansing was a great way to talk to Michiganders from around the state and to enjoy a good football game.
I absolutely believe that we must have our younger generation engaged. We have too many people in Washington who are legislating futures they're not going to be a part of. I'm a millennial myself, and I recognize the importance of having a voice on the floor of the U.S. Senate finally.
Democratic congressional candidate Gretchen Driscoll also made a campaign stop on campus, just not at a sporting event. Driscoll is running against Michigan's current Congressman Tim Walberg in the 7th District. He's been in office since 2011. The meet and greet with students was small and personal, which allowed plenty of time for questions. MSU is not in the 7th District, but Driscoll said meeting college students and finding out what they care about is an important part of her campaign.
Well, I think it's really important for people to understand what the issues are, what we're learning here. We're all learning together. That's how you have a stronger democracy. I've always really felt strongly about the more informed your democracy is, the better things go.
The MSU College Democrats put on the event and are planning more campus events in future elections. 2 spots on the MSU Board of Trustees will be decided tonight. Both Mitch Lyons and Brian Breslin decided to not rerun for re-election. The board has been under scrutiny following the handling of the Larry Nassar case. All candidates running for the open positions say that they want to help change the culture here at Michigan State. Voter turnout tends to be low during midterm elections, but tonight it's a good bet that will change. This is Eli Paulus' life right now. Plenty of coffee and lots of work.
In previous years, we just haven't had the people in place that cared enough about voter turnout.
Historically, voter turnout in midterm elections is low.
I'm getting really nervous about election day, so.
Okay, actually?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm scared people won't turn out.
But not this time.
We've gotten tons and tons of people registered. I am hearing from the clerk actually that our voter reg numbers are going to be about on par with the 2016 general election, and that's just absolutely insane.
In fact, Paulus says voter registration will end up 6 times higher than the last midterms.
Just absolutely insane levels of voter registration.
From on-campus to off-campus, Lansing City Clerk Chris Swope will have his hands full these next few weeks.
We've been very busy. We are on pace to issue more absentee ballots than we did in the presidential election.
There's many different reasons why some people just don't vote.
Michigan's voter laws are incredibly strict and discriminatory towards young voters.
People just sometimes don't see the importance of it, and you know, politics can kind of fade into the background. People have busy lives.
Thanks to the student government for pushing voters, they've made incredible breakthroughs.
As I said, we canvassed every single dorm. This is the first I've ever heard of this happening by the student government, by any campaign.
Now, all Eli and Chris are waiting for are the results.
Voter turnout literally just doubled, tripled, you know, got up to 50% even. That would have a huge earthquake on our political environment.
Voting, make it a habit.
I guess we're about to find out if Eli and Chris's predictions were right. That's all I have for you guys. Back to you, Kendall and Andrew.
There's a new competition among Big Ten schools and involves millennials.
That story plus discounts on merchandise. If you voted, that's all ahead. Go nowhere.
Theater, loving musicals. I never would have thought that that could have been my career until suddenly I'm working on a rewrite for the draft of my show as we're about to open on Broadway. And I'm like, oh my God, well, I guess this is what I'm doing now. Because I came out to LA not knowing anyone, I would have my internship from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, and I would stay on the Disney lot in this office from 7 at night until midnight because I also didn't own a computer. And I would just keep my script on this floppy disk, and I just spent the nights writing a script. And then I just kind of put it on a shelf and forgot about it. I met a screenwriter who took me under his wing. I shared my script with him. He liked it enough to share it with his agent. And then suddenly I was like off and writing. The most important thing you're going to get out of college is the hunger to be curious. And I think that's what college really is most important for, is it teaches you how to learn. If you stay curious and you desire to learn, you really have infinite possibilities.
Welcome back. We've seen a big push to get millennials to the polls for the election. One creative way is called the Big Ten Voting Challenge. All 14 presidents and chancellors of the Big Ten Conference have signed up to help to get students to the polls and to participate in local and national elections. At the end of the year, the 2 schools with the biggest voter turnout will be honored. The Supreme Court now has a majority of conservative justices. Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the nation's highest court in October, despite facing multiple sexual assault allegations. Democrats used Kavanaugh's confirmation as a rallying cry to vote.
The Senate confirmation process was contentious and emotional. That process is over.
Brett Kavanaugh was sworn into the Supreme Court in October.
And this isn't just another job at McDonald's. As a law student, this is the most important job in the country.
The issue of sexual assault has been national news lately, and during the confirmation process of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, it was at the forefront once again. The MSU Federalist Society hosted a panel discussion called Cavanay or Cavalier at the MSU College of Law.
So we try to bring engaging speakers on engaging topics, and that's what I think we did here today.
The event was designed to spark conversation.
I honestly thought it was very interesting that we had screaming matches going on in a Senate Judiciary Review hearing.
Being a female, I feel like I have to support women who come out with stories, and I'm proud of them for sharing things that they've been through.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace.
The Kavanaugh hearings were unique.
Sexual assault survivors around the country who are clearly bothered by many things. Does anybody feel like this is a good culmination, solution?
Law professor Josh Blackman thought the hearing process was dysfunctional.
You know, I don't think it was fair for anyone. This sort of allegation should have been investigated during the normal process by the FBI in advance. The allegation was not leaked until a week before the vote.
The MSU Federalist Society hosts similar events throughout the semester. You can check out their Facebook page for more information.
If all this election information is making your head spin, we understand. Let's break down the national elections and what it could mean for you. Today we will find out which party will control the House and the Senate. Right now Republicans run both. Democrats need to flip 23 seats to take over the House of Representatives. In the Senate, Republicans hold a narrow 51-49 majority, so the Democrats need to win 2 seats to have the majority. If Republicans hang on to their majority in the House and Senate, it is a total red wave in Washington, with the executive, judicial, and legislative branches all leaning Republican. That could mean repealing Obamacare and changes in immigration policies. If the Dems take the House and Senate, it could mean more investigations into President Trump and possible impeachment proceedings.
Midterm elections historically have lower voter turnout than presidential elections. But this November 6th, as we've mentioned already, looks to be different. Polls show this upcoming election is expected to have one of the highest voter turnouts from young adults in decades. There are several reasons, everything from social media reach to celebrity endorsements to feeling more empowered than they did in the 2016 election.
Young people felt disenfranchised. Whether other people agree with that perception or not, young people were very dissatisfied with the choices presented to them in the November 2016 election.
Meridian Township Clerk Brett Dreyfus reminds all voters they can decide an election. All they have to do is vote.
Finally tonight, the Surplus store on campus encouraged voters to stop by for an election day discount. The store offered 25% off computer-related products to anyone who presented an I voted sticker. The store has no political agenda and just wants to encourage participation in voting.
I would say we're not telling people how to vote or who to vote for. We're just encouraging people to take your right and take some time and go out and do and vote.
Other businesses offered voting incentives like Starbucks. If you wore an I voted sticker, you were granted with a free cup of joe.
That's all for this week's special edition of Focal Point. I'm Andrew Burkle.
And I'm Kendall Ashman. The polls are closed in Michigan. Thanks for joining us this evening.